to Charmed Life, a radio show discussing spirituality, magic, and the unconditional love of the universe. Thanks
I don't even know how to start. And I'm your host, Tricia Carr. And I mean, we're already super excited, like giggling into the show. I have to warn everyone who's listening that you might need to cinch up your belt because your pants might fly off with how much excitement is packed into this episode of Charmed Life. Before I start to welcome the excitement on, let me remind you that you can subscribe, like, share, comment, and review the podcast on iTunes or Spotify or iHeartRadio or however you get your podcast. I would love it if you would leave me a review. Do 5 stars and say yes if you want, or you can actually leave something that is really from your heart. I would really appreciate it. Helps that whole algorithm thing get boosted, which really is energy expanding. That's the thing. Zuckerberg thinks that he has something to do with it, but we know it's just our hearts connecting, and that's why it's happening. And then, of course, you can find me on YouTube. We get together there as well, and that is youtube.com/Tricia Carr. And I post other things there in addition to this broadcast as it is archived. You can watch it live on my website, TriciaCarrCharm.com, in the podcast area, where you'll also find my one-on-one services and my Mystic Arts Academy. And that's it. I can't believe I actually got that out. Whew. Because there is so much going on today. First of all, let me welcome into studio Christopher Marie Hoffman. His name's not really Marie. That's when I mom him. Chris Hoffman and Lauren Olivia.
Hello.
They're in town visiting me respectively from Arizona and Oregon, and I'm so excited to have you guys here.
Thank you for having us.
And they are my colleagues in the Lightworkers Lab, that online spiritual community you hear me speak about every single week. You can find us on Facebook as a group, but it is so much more. It's where we get together and we share our resources, we share our love, we share our light, we get education, so much free stuff going on. It's amazing. Go find us on Facebook, founded by our amazing, dear, luminous friend,
Yes.
Crystal Ann Compton, who you can also find on her websites and thelightworkerslab.com. And most luminously coming on the show today, I am beyond honored and thrilled. Colin Bedell, sorry, I am so excited to get your name right. Colin Bedell is a queer Gemini twin from the South Shore of Long Island, New York. He's passionate student of secular growth systems and the universal spiritual themes explored in A Course in Miracles. I love that. Colin is a published author. His first book, A Little Bit of Astrology, from Sterling Publishers, launched in November of 2018. And his next book, Queer Cosmos, is slated to release in November of this year, 2019. You can also catch Colin as the weekly horoscope writer on cosmopolitan.com and a columnist on astrology.com. Among his many, many accolades, it includes recently in 2017 lecturing on the astrology of American history at the Sister Giant on Washington, D.C., which is an event hosted by Marianne Williamson. What? Okay. Oh my gosh. Everyone calm down. Throw water on me. Welcome, Colin. Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, thank you. It's an honor to be here. I had so much fun giving you a natal chart reading, and I'm very glad that we had the honor to do so. So it's a thrill to be here. Thank you.
It was so fun. I cannot recommend Colin highly enough. Go check. Your website is just queercosmos.com. Is that it?
That's it.
Yeah.
And then you can see my reading options there. So I do solar return, natal chart readings, Saturn return readings for people going through that right message, and compatibility as well.
I hope you're still doing those in about, I think it's 30 years till my next one. But
I love it. I love it like that's an astrological joke. Like,
oh, am I an astro nerd? Oh, that's so awesome. Because I think of myself as an astro ignoramus. So, yeah.
You
you
up-leveled.
know your stuff. I almost just said the word that rhymes with pit. You know your stuff.
That rhymes with what? Shit? Oh, you could say that on here. Yeah.
That one?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, you know your shit, Trish. Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, well, I think it's just from absorbing it from people like you and our other really dear friend, Lauren Antiformo, who's an astrologer as well. And, but I feel like I'm learning it. Actually, my friend and assistant, she's on the show not too long ago, Olivia Ray. I actually intuited her as her ascendant, which was kind of weird, but we have the same one. That's why I was like, are you Virgo ascendant? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, no. It's because we both like to pretend like we have it together. So.
And you know what, Trish? I always say that I think Virgo energy outs itself the quickest of the whole stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I agree.
It's louder than Leo. It's louder than Scorpio. I could smell a Virgo rising, Virgo sun, Virgo moon from outer space.
Yeah. From a mile away, you're like, oh yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Now these guys have kids. Do your kids have any Virgo in their main three
I've
positions?
actually never looked my chart up for the girls.
You're like, I don't want to be surprised.
I don't need to know.
It's enough.
I'd like to be
We'll
surprised.
have a
Thank you.
house ruled by Virgo somewhere. So even if it's not a personal planet or or a placement, every single one of us has a house ruled by Virgo, and that's where we express the best of that sign.
Really? So that's an interesting place to start, actually. So what is it? What if we feel like we have some kind of major aspects missing from the chart? Can we? Is it possible? You're saying Virgo must be just as the rotation, or what am I trying to say? Like the orbits are, like they must be in one of the houses because it's that close. Mercury is that close.
Trish, that's how we connected, because I did a video on that in terms of why we have the zodiac within us. So we need to be really responsible about the words and the analysis that we have around other zodiac signs, because we're essentially harming ourselves anytime we just kind of casually, ruthlessly disregard the function of each zodiac sign. So when we're looking at the natal chart, right, of course, the ascendant is the sign that begins the first house of self. And then in chronological order from there is the zodiac belt. So say in your example, you're a Virgo rising, right? Then that means that Leo is the ruler of your 12th house, okay? And Libra would be the ruler of your second house of money. And then that's what completes the whole chart. And we will express the energy and experience the effects when transits are in those zodiac signs when it aspects the house that the sign rules. I hope that makes sense.
It does, except that it's so intelligent that most of this is a download for me always. I think that's why I feel like I don't know a lot about astrology, is because when someone like you are so intelligently in so much detail and so articulately explaining it to me, I feel like my conscious mind can't keep up. But I gotta tell you, that's how I felt when I read Eckhart Tolle for the first time too. I felt like my conscious mind couldn't do it, but it still shows up all the time, even though I haven't read it again.
Well, that's also any product of reading something written by an Aquarius author. I mean, oh my God, I'm just like, what dimension are you getting this information from? But yes, no, and in true Piscean way, like you study all universal spiritual themes, so it doesn't even matter. You know this already. We all know it, right?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know if I know all the astrology, but we have so much. Well, first of all, let's dive into Queer Cosmos. I'm so excited about it. Tell us all about it. It's focusing on relationships in a lot of ways. So tell us all about your book that's coming up very soon.
Yes. So what I realized was that I am obviously not the only queer astrologer. I'm not the first, I'm not the only, and I'm not the last. So I was thinking to myself, well, what is the way in to really explore astrology and all the other interests that I'm passionate about through a queer lens for queer readers and queer allies? And in my research to figure out what would be my touchstone, what I learned was that loneliness is the #1 public health crisis in the United States. So what I know to be true about my own life and through the lives of others who are working as astrologers is that through a really helpful inquiry and an actual efficient application of astrological principle, does it increase our relational health. So what I wanted Queer Cosmos to be was just a very helpful resource for #1, queer people to unlearn the thought systems of shame that dominate heteronormative conditioning, particularly anything patriarchal in the United States. So how queer people can unlearn their shame to remind themselves of their essential astrological worthiness, because as the Course in Miracles says, love is our natural inheritance, and the astrological chart is the vocabulary by which we are naturally worthy of love. And then I go through all of the zodiac sign combinations to explore the proficiency related to why certain signs are really attracted to one another. But I don't go into the binary of relationship compatibility, because I believe every zodiac sign pair can learn how to be compatible. And I kind of discuss my favorite relationship theorists from John Gottman, Marianne, Williamson. I go over Harville Hendricks as well in terms of what they say around relational proficiency.
Wow, that's amazing. We can all say it. We all love Marianne, right?
Oh yeah,
Marianne for president.
Oh my God, I know, and she's a Cat Moon too, Trish.
She is? No way. I didn't know that. No wonder.
That's why she takes no shit. I mean, when you see her in those lectures, my friends and I call it the WW SmackDown. She's like, oh my God. But yes.
Do we think she has, she doesn't. She got 1%, so she can actually join the debates. But, I don't think that we're quite ready. But I think it's a step forward, right? I don't think, not we, but, you know, the collective we of this nation. Yeah.
I think two things. Well, actually, I want to say too, not to be name pluggy, but because she's part of it, she's actually writing the forward to Queer Cosmos.
Oh my gosh. I feel like
Wow.
I was going to ask you like how well you know her, because I felt like you know her.
Very well. She's been such an influential and helpful figure to me. We met actually at the Sister Giant conference, and I just really kind of thanked her for what her influence was, because before she was on Oprah and extremely famous there, she was actually counseling gay men who were dying of AIDS in the AIDS
Yes.
crisis.
I know that. Yes.
And I think we all often get blindsided by how successful of an author she is, and forget that she had almost a decade's worth of like really helpful activism work when like life coaches and spiritual seekers, like there was no niche for that.
Yes.
So that's where our relationship began. And I do think that the country is ready to hear aspirational principles in politics. And she's going to be on the debate stage. So I'm thrilled for her.
That's
I know.
amazing. The thing that I think that, you know what I realized though, so far, but I think this is being burnt down, and her prominence in this potential race and everything is certainly helping it, is that the wonderful thing, one of the wonderful things is she does have source material, A Course in Miracles, that she works from, and that she even teaches that in her course for, you know, teaching the teachers, that that's really important. Have source material, and then of course you riff on it. You know what I mean? Like that's how you actually become a scholar, is by first learning a source material of some kind or of many kinds, and then contributing, and that's what a scholar is. But I feel like we don't even like the presidents that we pick, they're not even like real evangelical Christians. Like we wouldn't even pick a president that talked about the Bible as much as she's mentioned her source material. You know what I mean? So that's the thing that I think that, but I think that's again burning some of that down. I think being able to move forward this awareness is going to be so helpful.
And maybe, you know, for the perhaps religiously conservative Christians, she can speak a language to them that they understand, whereas they would not necessarily feel any kind of passion for a Democratic speaker.
Well, yes, I know that's true. However, the thing is, we have this whole disease about wanting to watch, you know, something like being blinded by what she's currently saying, by the fact that she has a book that's based on A Course in Miracles, and be like, what's that devil stuff? You know what I mean? Like that's the thing that I think is that's unfortunate about the current climate. But I think it's moving that storm away with her work.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm proud of her. I think this must be a huge risk, and she's thought about it for years. We spoke about it in like 2017.
Oh well, good. So whatever. Me too.
Yeah. Like, go ahead. Get it done. We're supporting you. So there we go. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing. I had no idea you knew Marianne so well. That's awesome. Like what degree? Like we couldn't fan out even more.
Exactly.
And you know what? Let me just say, and then I'll stop. She really is who the hell she is off camera.
Oh, I love it.
Like, it just so happens she has cameras rolling, but I've seen and witnessed and experienced so much of her kindness and generosity that's not covered, that's not spoken about. And I'm just so glad that her integrity is over every area of her life.
Wow, beautiful. Well, I'm really excited about Queer Cosmos and you, and also a little bit of astrology. That you guys, Chris and Lauren, you have his book. I think you said, yeah.
Yeah, I've already pre-ordered Queer Cosmos, so I'm excited for that one.
Great.
Yes, thank you.
Of course, I'm excited.
And a little bit of astrology. Tell us a little bit about, for folks who haven't purchased and read this book, what were some of the topics and amazing concepts that you talked about?
Okay, so it was hard because my publisher Sterling Press is running this A Little Bit of series that is a compendium to reintroduce metaphysical concepts from an introductory point of view to new readers. So as we spoke about earlier, astrology as a topic is so vast. There are so many ways in, right? And I needed to talk about astrology in 20,000 words or less, which really isn't a lot, right? Yeah. So there were only supposed to be 8 chapters and there's 12 zodiac signs. Oh my God, right? So what I tried to do was just actually really help the reader understand that every single zodiac sign is a combination of quality and element. The 3 qualities in astrology are cardinal, fixed, and mutable. And the 4 elements are air, earth, fire, and water. So each zodiac sign is a combination of one of those 2. And that's what creates the function of each, right? And I think we're a storytelling species, right? We really connect when something is told through a metaphorical lens. So I just kind of likened astrology to the symphony of the universe, and I made planets musicians, and I kind of tried to illustrate the song of each element and what we feel when we hear that song, because I think music really connects people to spirituality as well. So I tried to cram a lot in there, but I did go over relationship compatibility too. I went over the nodes of astrology, which is a really, really important topic. So that's NODES. I went over the houses. It was just really supposed to be a primer for anybody who wanted the language articulated in a different way, who may actually want to take the study with them for life.
Wow, that's so awesome. I love all of that. I talk about music a lot. Well, my husband is a composer. My Aquarius is a composer.
Yes, love it.
And so the way that I talk about acting and I talk about music, because those are the two arts that, I've actually studied and I guess become skilled at to some greater or lesser degree, mostly lesser at this point. But they're the disciplines or the art forms that I actually relate to. So I talk about them a lot. And with my husband, as I went through this opening and what the heck was she up to after we'd been together for 8 or 9 years or something, and that I explained it to him that the intuitive expression is the same as the creative artistic one. So when you are needing to create a new melody or a new piece, you sit down and you clear your mind, and it comes from nowhere to somewhere, and that's it. It's the same process, exact same process. So I love that you compare, and it's called The Universe after all, one song.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, Trish, I love everything about what you just said. I couldn't co-sign it enough, not just because we're Cat Moon sisters, okay? But it's true. We're all getting inspiration from some divinity, right? And just some people do it through music, some people do it through the healing arts like you do, but we're all getting it from the same energy source. Yeah.
All right. Now, I'm going to digress a little bit and say, tell us about your journey, because I really don't know about how you came into this amazing life that you're creating.
Oh, well, so I've always loved astrology. My mom actually got me into it when I was like 12 years old, because she had read Linda Goodman's sun signs, as did so many in the 60s and 70s. So the vocabulary was just always kind of set in my house. And she's a double Cancer, which is a sign of maternity. So obviously her mother's skills are supreme. And then she actually gave birth to a pair of Gemini twins, because I was born during Gemini season, and I have a twin sister named Courtney.
Oh, so, my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, so our family was just sort of like, wow, there could be something to this, right? So it was always just a hobby. It was something that I loved studying and learning, and throughout the vast majority of my 20s, I was just talking about it because I loved it. I really had no ambition to become an astrologer one day. I just couldn't help myself by talking about it. And I actually think that was such a blessing, because I had no like ulterior motive or transactional intention. I was just doing it because I loved it. And then when I was 27, I was laid off from my income secure job only 2 weeks after I let my website go live. And then I realized, I was like, well, damn, there's nothing else I'd rather do than talk about spirituality professionally and work as an astrologer. And this opportunity revealed itself where I could actually do it. And why the hell not? And I've been doing it for 2 years. I can't believe it.
Wow. Amazing. 2 years. That's pretty awesome.
That's awesome.
I know. And it really, I recognize that it did happen very quickly. And I actually think in a counterintuitive way, it's because I never wanted it to happen. Because we know when people have a gig, we know when people want to talk to you because they want to talk to figure out how they can get this. I never had any of that. I was empty of all of that ambition. So when the opportunity came, it was just like all of the universe conspired to help me do it.
That's amazing. Well, and that's also a testament to when you are in alignment, time really is not, we aren't subject to time. Time is subject to us. And so it all just unfolds.
Yes, Trish. And Einstein himself said time and space are illusions of consciousness. In the Course of Miracles, the inner dictation says, I assure you time and space is under my control, and miracles collapse time anyway.
Oh my gosh, we talked about that yesterday, right? So we had a workshop yesterday, and we talked about a lot about that, about time being subject, and we talked about waveform collapse and how the waveform collapse actually happens in the apex of the heart of all of the dimensions. So do you? I don't want to steal the floor. Do you guys have any questions for Colin, or? No, steal the floor or put you on the spot, either way.
I found it very interesting that you talked about the book and how it's about removing shame. And I think that's such beautiful work, especially in the gay community, but also like bringing in that source, that higher power that heals that, and it sets you up as a worthy aspect of the universe and who you want to be. So I love your work. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah,
That's
because
amazing.
I think shame is always holding us back. And that's what Dr. Brene Brown is talking about often, and like really every theorist on social development. And for listeners who are new to this work, shame is the belief that we are, because of some fundamental experience, absolutely unworthy of love and belonging.
Correct.
And shame can't survive being spoken. Shame can't survive being ameliorated through empathy. So it's helpful to allow the reader and listener to know that shame can't survive if it's named. And we are always fundamentally worthy of love and belonging because of who we are.
Because we are. Because we are.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's
it's not circumstance dependent. Go ahead.
Well, no. The shame, blame, guilt, resentment, anything, or regret. All of those things, they're actually negating being, and that's just not possible. So they just create suffering. I actually felt guilt from last night to this morning, and I know, like the second that I feel anything in that bag, I'm like, okay. As I say, I'm like, you're not actually in the process of manifestation if you're in the process of denying being by having shame, blame, guilt, resentment, regret, and it's okay. So this morning, because I just had some mistakes go on with technology and everything yesterday, and look at you, Chris loving on me with this face.
She's so silly about it.
And well, I mean,
But I can understand. Well,
it was a big deal for me. So this morning, as I went into my devotional session, I was like, how do I, what's the thing? What's the antidote? Tell me what's the deal. And it was just grace. Grace was the way that I could actually begin to move out of the guilt or regret or whatever it was. Just give yourself grace. And I came to tears. Yeah.
But it's true. I mean, grace is part of that compassion and giving self-compassion. And when you're putting that towards yourself, you see mistakes in a different light, you know.
Actually, I should say, we do have the phone lines open, right, Kurt? Okay, 323-524-2599. If anybody wants to call in, and if you have a question for our amazing guest, Colin, or of course, Lauren or Chris. Lauren, what about you? Now, you are a Gemini, and so we're around your birthday time right now. Yeah?
A few weeks into my birthday.
Yeah, exciting.
I'm
And so how's it been for
She's
you?
so excited.
How's it been for you as a Gemini? Do you miss your twin somewhere out there in the world?
I love it. I absolutely adore being a Gemini, and I embrace it. I totally embrace it.
My mom's a Gemini, so.
I'm very I'll fly that flag, unapologetic.
You don't have any Gemini shame.
No, I don't.
No shame game.
No.
And so,
Which is hard because the internet throws us under the bus, Trish. I don't want to play
It's true.
All the time.
yeah, like it's duplicitous or two-faced or something.
Every time I tell somebody, they're like, oh.
Are we friends? No, we're not friends.
Yeah, and it's like, good. Thanks for letting me know from the word go. So I'm not going to waste my time.
Yep.
And also, I just think people are afraid of change. I think people are afraid of uncertainty. I
Yep.
think people are also afraid of verbal communication,
Yep.
which is Gemini's bailiwick.
Yeah.
I just shared a video that said the scariest sentence anybody could ever hear is "we need to talk." And
Yeah.
that sentence is introduced by Gemini. So no wonder everyone throws us under the bus because we terrify people with these experiences all the time.
Well, I actually didn't realize, again, astro ignoramus, I didn't realize that each of the signs were a composition of two of the elements. And
One element and a quality.
an element and a quality. Oh, cardinal, fixed, or mutable. Got it. Oh, okay. So I'm Pisces, and so that is mutable in water, obviously.
Beautiful, yes. And what's beautiful is, unfortunately, surface level astrology can say, oh, so Trish, you should hang out with the other water signs because that's why you guys get along just fine. When actually, I think that the modalities or the qualities do really well together. So Gemini, Virgo, Sag, Pisces, right? Aries, Cancer, Capricorn, Libra, and then Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius are the fixed signs. And they have a wonderful synergy together. And then the nuance becomes when they express the element. And it's beautiful. It's that's my favorite way into astrology. I think it's a helpful little skeleton key. And all you need to do is even look at the birth season as well, like Pisces as a mutable sign, right?
Yeah.
That's when winter becomes spring. And there's no juxtaposition on Earth quite like death and rebirth. And that's Pisces, right?
Yeah.
We could just see what's happening in the state of the world. And that's how you really understand the function of your quality and element.
And so that's really fascinating to me because since there are 3 modalities but 4 elements, and so there's a lot of overlap. There is necessarily overlap there. I mean, I always think of, maybe because I am Pisces, I always think of water, no matter what, as mutable. You know what I mean? Like it flows, it's mutable. But I guess that's not true. I mean, is Scorpio mutable or no? What is its modality?
And I love that you're asking this question because they're fixed, right? And it's interesting to think, right? So mutable air, Gemini, oh, of course that's flexible. Mutable water, Pisces, yeah, of course, right? Mutable earth, earth isn't flexible. So how does Virgo express that resilience and adaptability and detachment? How does Scorpio, as fixed water, concentrate this element of malleability into a particular thing, right? And therein lies where astrology can become extremely philosophical, extremely specific, and absolutely wonderful in terms of understanding everybody's function in self-actualization.
Well, I'm so elemental. That's my whole jam. So, but I can feel that. And we actually talked about that in my reading because I have a Capricorn moon, and you actually asked me, how do I feel about Capricorn? How do I feel about Earth? And I said, I don't think Earth is rigid. I think Earth is like womb energy. And, so I think I don't feel like Earth is like that at all. And maybe that's, again, part of the reason I have that kind of flexibility with that particular element is that it's in my moon, which is supposed to be the flexible, emotional, aspect.
And your rising sign, because Virgo is the mutable Earth sign. So you really know how to make Earth malleable, right? And then with Capricorn moon, you know how to initiate, you know how to move it, right? So you have 2 of those earth elements, whereas Taurus knows how to preserve Earth and embody Earth and protect it.
Wow.
And it's beautiful if we say it in that lens. Does any of that have a monopoly on merit? Does each one? No, they all have a specific function. And that's what astrology gives us the permission to understand, is that each and every one of us have a specific set of gifts and abilities, no more or less important than anybody else's, that are used in service to contribute to the healing of the world.
Oh my gosh, so beautiful. I could listen to you all day, right?
I love that.
So for folks that aren't they don't really understand what we're talking about so far as the modalities are concerned. So mutable means flowing, and actually mutability that means that you're transcendable too.
Yes.
Yeah. How else would you describe the modalities?
Sure. So we'll go in order, right?
Okay.
So Cardinal initiates the Zodiac. So that's Aries. Okay. So Cardinal signs are leaders, they're pioneers, innovators, disruptors. They have a very appropriate license to be moderately self-referential, meaning they have to look through the lens of like what I want, what I need to do, what I have to give, where my boundaries are, because they represent like autonomy in a beautiful way, right? So those are Libra, Cancer, Aries, and Capricorn, right? And each one initiates what the element represents. So Aries initiates identity, Cancer initiates belonging, Libra initiates relationships, and Capricorn initiates structure. And then we have the fixed signs, which are all born during the peak of a season, the dead of a season, the fullest expression of it. And they're meant to embody and protect and really demonstrate the most beautiful, purest form of those elements. So Taurus represents fixed earth, which is why they're artistic, aesthetic, beautiful, sensual, pleasurable, right? And then Leo is fixed fire, which is July, late August, of course, the peak of summer. Leo representing fixed worthiness, fixed courage, fixed creativity. And then we have Scorpio, which is fixed water. So they actually, I think, demonstrate what erotic intelligence is and how they can concentrate water as a symbol for truth and transformation. And then Aquarius represents fixed convictions, the ideas that stand the test of time and are applicable beyond the personal, right? So just complete impersonal convictions. And then last but not least, we have immutable signs. So those are born while seasons are in transition. They know when things need to end. I say that they minister to the dying and they midwife the new. They let seasons go and they introduce new ones, right? So Gemini, as mutable air, initiates the welcome to summer and the sharing of communication and ideas and the exchange of information. And then we have Virgo, which introduces the end of summer and the beginning of autumn, which introduces service and saving our resources, right? Because in August, September, agricultural communities needed to preserve what grew to last the winter, which is why Virgo knows how to make Earth last a long time, okay? And then we have Sagittarius, which are born between fall and winter, and they, as mutable fire, are here to disseminate wisdom, If you're talking to a smart Sagittarius, everything that they say is applicable to every single person. They uplift everybody. They uplift all resources, opportunities, and expressions in divine right order because they're highly educated and optimistic, which is a value that never goes out of style. And then Pisces, of course, as we said, is winter into spring. So they are that which needs to be spiritually surrendered and also make space for unconditional love as much as possible.
Oh my gosh. Well, that was a masterclass. Do you guys like?
Sorry, did I talk too much?
Are you kidding me? No,
That's perfect.
We're trying to not talk.
Yes.
And just to what?
All of it, but you asked, so I was like, let's do all of it. So now.
No, I love it. Seriously, I'm going to go back and I'm going to take notes, and I encourage all of the listeners to do that. That was beautiful. I thank you so much. And did you guys like hear all of your loved ones in that? You're like, yes, absolutely. Yep, I know.
I'm Aries. I was too focused on myself.
That started it, and so he like blanked out.
I did give you license for.
He flatlined. That's amazing. Well, we actually have a caller, and I know who this caller is because I can see who it is. I know that phone number. So let's welcome her onto the show. This is Lauren, isn't it? Lauren Antifermo.
Hello.
Lauren!
So I've already told Colin all about you, and Lauren is going to be having a reading with Colin pretty soon. Ooh. But you too. Oh my gosh, what's going on with you, Lauren? Thank you for calling in.
Oh my God, I'm so starstruck right now. Colin, I love you.
Right? Fangirl.
Well, I couldn't resist the chance to call in. And hello, my lovelies. Hi, Lauren. Hi, Chris. Hi, Tricia. Thank you.
Love you, babe.
All right, so I do have a question. So I'm currently going through a Neptune square Neptune transit, and it's in like my first house. I'm natally in my 9th house, and now Neptune in my first house. And I can't wrap my head around like how that affects me or what that means for me. And I was wondering if you could help with that kind of, defining or help me translate what that would mean for me.
Yes. Okay. So Lauren, Neptune and Sagittarius, right? Obviously, is where your Neptune is. Yep. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, and the transiting Neptune is in your first house. So you're Pisces rising?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. So Neptune transits, like them all, are always asking us for radical integration. Okay. So with squares, they are going to feel like they're opposing energies. Okay. So Neptune in Pisces is all about ways in which we can apply universal spiritual wisdom to help us make sense of whatever the square transit is affecting. Neptune in Sag rules higher education, comfort level with contrast, okay, academics, publishing, wisdom, and most importantly, proactive optimism. Okay, so let's think about how a Neptune square Neptune transit can help you proactively assume positive intent about circumstances, situations, events, and relationships so that you can allow yourself to achieve self-actualization. Because with Neptune in Pisces, especially if it's inside our first house, there can be a little bit of proactive armor, proactive defensiveness, proactive belief that situations won't go well, right? But Neptune in Sag says, oh no, honey, dream bigger, think bigger, be proactively optimistic, and thereby do you invite the universe to meet you at your level, because you can live out of a circumstances or you can live out of a vision. And Neptune in Sag wants us to live out of a vision, proactively so, with hypothesis of kindness, theories of generosity, and proactive optimism, so that our lives can operate at peak performance. Does that make sense?
Oh my God, beautiful. Yes.
It's hard.
I'm definitely feeling that square. And I'm like, why do I feel so So yeah, it's definitely both that I'm feeling. Sometimes really, really optimistic, and sometimes like nothing is going to work out. So that makes so much sense. And you really put it in a way that I can now really, when I go through those periods, see what is needed at that time. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Because and let's be clear, Neptune transits are always going to confuse us. So this is the welcome to the party. This is how it works. So I'm glad that you're asking me the critical information. But I think because Jupiter's in Sagittarius right now, so it's already made its conjunction to your Neptune, or it's about to, I want you to lean more heavily on proactive optimism with the help of Jupiter in Sagittarius. I think the world desperately needs people who are not necessarily invested in the outcome, but absolutely invested in the effort of an optimistic outcome. Does that make sense?
Completely agree. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Do you want to share?
So what I'm trying to do with my own work, with like, with what I do for a living, is trying to, what I want to put out there, and then I do, but then internally I have this struggle, like, oh, nobody's hearing me. So.
And that's Pisces, because remember, Pisces energy is so not of this world that it's in like otherworldly dimensions. So sometimes if it's left ungrounded.
Yeah, I'm a Pisces sun too.
Oh, there you go. So is your sun in the 12th house or the first?
The first.
Okay. So essentially then sometimes with Pisces energy, if it's left ungrounded, it's just making up conspiracy in your head. Right? Because you're so not even in the physical world that you're like, whoa, way out into other dimensions, which is fun and beautiful and lovely because it makes you creative and empathetic and generous. But every once in a while, you want to ask yourself, like, well, wait, do people see me? Maybe they do. Am I just making up a story in my head? Right? Let me proactively introduce optimism as an essential value so that I can be skeptical of the thoughts that give me stress.
Ooh, that's good. Are you speaking to this Pisces right now, right?
Right?
Yes.
So,
oh my God. Lauren's probably rolling her eyes out there.
She is
right now, going, I've been telling her.
These Laurens, by the way, Colin, these Laurens are best friends. Well, we're all best friends, but yeah.
I love it. I love it. And there we go. It's mutable magic. We got two Geminis, two Pisces, the lone Aries, of course. Is
Really special.
always.
And that's how this energy works. But no, Lauren, the Neptune transit is just here to help the way that you think about thinking and experience. And you really want to ground yourself in utilizing optimism as a practical value. I think it will really help your life.
Wow.
Ooh,
Thank
Lauren
you
Permo
so
got
much.
called out.
Oh my God. Shut up, Chris.
Love you.
Yeah.
Wow, so amazing. That was really beautiful. Thank you, Colin, so much. And thank you, Lauren. Oh my gosh, I love hearing you. I wish you were here right now. So awesome.
Calling in.
Well, thank you so much for calling in, Lauren. And do you anything else you want to share, Lauren?
No, just thank you so much. And thank you, Colin. You're one of the people that I follow and get really inspired by. And I love you, Chris and Lauren and Tricia. I love you.
I love you.
And that's it.
That's so much beautiful love. I love my Pisces people. You got to know. I go so hard for my mutable brethren. So keep shining, baby.
Thank you.
Lauren and I are the only Pisces we have in our lives that we like.
Yeah.
It can be a handful. That's true. But I love them. They're so sweet.
I know I think they created a whole category of mood disorders called bipolar, the cluster B, the borderline, all of that cluster B stuff. I think that's really just Pisces. It's really just sick.
People who write the DSM and be like, listen, we are astrologers and spiritual seekers. Just want to let you know it's inaccurate. Okay.
Yeah, it'll be the DSM-7. They're on 5 right now. They're not ready.
You probably could. When Cat Moon is like up there with her facts straight and she's coming for blood, like if anybody can convince them it's you, I'll just stand behind and give you the approval.
Oh, well, you Cat Moon too. We'll be up there tag teaming.
I know, passing the baton. I love it.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you again, Lauren. So awesome to hear your voice, and thanks for calling. I was like, yeah, please call in because you're going to ask some nerd question and we're just going to be able to bathe in it.
Fair houses. Yes, let's go there. Love it. Let me keep you on my toes. Good job.
Thank you again, Lauren. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, so Colin, you clearly have studied A Course in Miracles. When did you do the course?
Yes. So I was introduced to it in 2013 during my Jupiter return. So if anybody's familiar with astrology, it was when transiting Jupiter returned to my natal position, which is Gemini, Jupiter and Gemini. And I was introduced to it because I was on YouTube after a really bad breakup and I prayed for some help. I never prayed out loud before, but I was just like, if anybody's up there, help me.
Aww.
And then the next thing I know, I'm watching Marianne Williamson on Oprah talk about forgiveness. And I was like, who is this woman? And what the hell is this book she's talking about?
Yeah.
Right. And then I read A Return to Love shortly after, which was a very helpful primer to really get into the course because it's definitely intimidating at first for many of us.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started really about a year later. So I've been doing the workbook for almost 5 or 6 years, and I'm doing my 3rd round right now.
Wow, that's amazing. That's so great. Did you get through it in a year? Did you do the?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
great. Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, it's I'm gonna be starting it sometime. It's one of you do like you have this primer with it because like the first time I ever opened it and I read the first like paragraph and I was like, all right, I got to sit with that for 6 weeks.
Exactly.
I don't know. Sometimes you really do. Go ahead. Yeah.
I was like, yes, that's everything that I don't know why have they even written more in this book actually either. That's everything.
And it literally says, I love it. Therefore, the course can be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Only love is real. Herein lies the peace of God.
That's it. Seriously, like that's it.
Just bask in that.
Yeah. And any questions?
Right? No, didn't think so. No, just kidding. Right. It's crazy.
And after you do the course, well, I mean, actually, at any point, you can definitely use it as an oracle. Just flop it open, and there you are. Spirit will direct you. Your inner being will direct you to exactly what you need. So, do you do any teaching on it, or is it just for your personal growth and work, or is it just woven in?
I've done a few workshops on them. Last year, I presented on how universal spiritual themes of A Course in Miracles is actually connected to astrology, like in the sense that it says that every relationship is an assignment, and I connected that to relationship compatibility, and then some workbook lessons into the natal chart, because it says we're all imbued with a highly individualized spiritual curriculum. Of course, to me, that's the natal chart. It doesn't get any more specific than that, because it repeats itself once every 3,000 years. Hello. So I've done that, and I've done a few workshops into the basic principles of it, just for people who wanted to learn more but have never had the opportunity to just have it summarized. So yes, and I'd like to work in that capacity more. I'm really blown away by how much it resonates with people to this day. I'm so glad that it does. It
really does. And the languaging, for some people, might seem that it's actually religious, but it's really just because of I think it was the timing, like, when it was channeled, when it was brought forward. We didn't have as neutral a terms or as quite as secular. That was extremely secular for the time.
Yes, it really was.
And I think it still is. I think it's really beautiful. I come from having been in evangelical Christianity as a young person. Like I actually, and this was not from my parents. I actually took my cute little butt to church as a rebellion at 11.
I love it.
And then left the church when I was about 20. But I did have to, I actually had to redeem the word God for myself. I had to take it back from the people who told me what that word meant. And so I think it's a really beautiful exercise in that, again, just with some of the languaging. We only have so many words though, yo. We have to.
And my friend Allison Strickland, who's a Taurus and just a phenomenal artist, she always says, God is not a dirty word.
Yeah.
Right? And I also think, too, for any kind of progressive seeker like you or anybody who identifies as queer, we really want to be the ones to say, okay, we understand the racket against this word, and let's actually discuss a different meaning. Because, the word God, it's not as if that energy is what created the shame-sigma doctrine that keeps women in powerless situations and demonizes scripture against gays. It's humans who did that. So
Absolutely.
He wants to kind of stand behind this interpretation and say there are other ways to look at it. And the Course does use the Trinitarian symbolism in non-traditional ways, which is why I felt comfortable with it.
That Trinitarian symbolism, though, I find it in everything. It's amazing. Actually, Spirit just told me recently that, there's skills, talent, and wisdom. And your pursuit of all three equally will result in what humans either think of as either intelligence or success. But it's that Trinity that makes that whole experience. So I just keep finding Trinities in everything. It's amazing.
Can I give you an astrology interpretation of that too? Well,
yes.
First of all, that was beautiful. I'll never forget it. And also the numbers for the mutable signs, Trish. Number 3, Gemini. Virgo, 6. Sag, 9. Pisces, 12.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So we're divisible of 3.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's so true. Except for Chris. He's only divisible of 1.
Of course.
Aries get their love. You know what? I'll tell you what. Aries are among my greatest spiritual teachers.
Oh, I love that.
I really will. I will
that.
totally give them the credit there because you know what? And I think this is so beautiful. When the Zodiac begins, of course, it's Aries. And the wisdom of Aries is fearlessness. beginner's mind, and a life unlike the past.
Ooh, that's beautiful. Yeah, because you could be like this quivering little jellyfish of a Pisces going, I feel it all. And I've done it all, so why do anything? You know what I mean? Like that's the shadow of Pisces. So then Aries is like, get up, do something.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's not about you. The past is over. Be here now. And oh, it didn't work before? Too bad. Make it work again. You know? And I love that energy. And that's what Aries always teach me is like, oh, just do it. Stop complaining and be brave.
Yeah. Well, then stop feeling those things.
Just stop. Just
if it
calm
hurts
down.
feeling them, stop feeling them.
Just say no.
Right. And all of a sudden, it's like a church bell moment, a brick to the forehead. We're like, you're right. And then it works. So I love my Aries. I'm blessed by them. I am.
So how do you, when we're talking about relationships, and that's what Queer Cosmos talks a lot about. Oh, wait, before I go there, Spirit's telling me, no, there was another thing you wanted to mention before we get too far off of it. When we're talking about words and we're talking about redeeming them or redefining them, and that's something that the queers are able to do, is that that coming together and either creating new pronouns or just creating new identities, shake it up, or again, redeem back, your pronoun, redeem it to whatever it's supposed to be, because words are just limitations. They're just signposts that point you to the real energy underneath. But I love that about what is happening with queers. It's amazing. We're all queer. I mean, anyway, but yeah.
That's true. We really are. And I think that's something that's really beautiful about our community is we are writing the script to where we are now and where we want to go next. We have an unbelievable amount of freedom, and there are many areas where people in our community don't, particularly with the trans community, which of course we never want to get complacent with. And when it comes to words, you're absolutely right. We're constantly reinventing it. And I like how the course also sort of says too, don't get too attached to words. It says that too. It's like, listen, words are at best symbols that are twice removed. Why? Because the experience is all that matters. So then if I'm interpreting the situation in my head, then I'm applying words to it. And then when I speak it, I've also diminished that experience by twice of its power. So it also says, don't get too caught up in the complexity of it. It's an experience that's the issue, not the semantics.
Right. Well, just think about if we get stuck on a word, and whether it's God or whether it's she, if we get stuck on it, it's because there's something that wants to be released. And we have to come present with it then. We have to come deep back into the experience in order to find where the feeling really is or the experience really is. And I just think that's beautiful. So thank you to the queer community. I hopefully consider myself a part of it as well, because I think that's a really important message that is happening for all of us. It's bringing us really present. It's important.
I love that. And through words, which is also under the Gemini rule transits, and we got a Gemini tomorrow. So boom. Yes.
All right. Well, we are almost out of time. And I just want to ask you, is there any last thing that you can share with folks? First of all, do you actually, when you meet a new person and you start any kind of new relationship that's important, do you okay, when were you born? What's the time? No, you have to tell me the state and the time and the everything. Or do you intuit it sometimes?
When it comes to friends, I am happy to go there. Absolutely. When it comes to romantic partners, I don't.
You don't? What? That's amazing. With new romantic partners, you hold off and knowing they're deep.
Correct. For a couple reasons. Well, number one, I don't date a lot because Capricorn moon, I'm just like, I got work to do. I have shit to do. But if I'm interested, I do not, because I don't want to be this person's astrologer. I ultimately want to be their partner one day. And if we fuck up that boundary too early, then it's going to be very hard to pivot back. So I don't ask. I don't care. And if they want an astrologer, I'll give them referrals, but I'm not your astrologer. I'm your man.
Oh, I totally agree with that. But I was just wondering, if you want to understand that so you could understand the other person, you know what I mean? Where they're coming from. But you don't really necessarily need it. Again, you can intuit it. You can listen. You can ask questions. So, yeah.
And I don't want to get too attached to that, because there's a different part of my brain when I'm calling the astrologer versus when if I'm calling the romantic partner. And I don't want to merge them too much. Right. I really don't, because I spend all day, Trish, when you're in the intuitive world, you spend that hat on all day. And when you're with a romantic partner, you're like, no, I don't want to do that with you right now. Actually,
I've worked with my husband in either a healing or reading situation formally twice, and that's it. I mean, obviously, it's a part of everything. You're just always kind of there. But he just really recently said to me, I really want to, bump up my meditation practice. Do you have any tips? Like that's about it. And I just,
And that's different.
yeah.
That's totally different because we and I think it almost, I don't want to say it robs people of privacy, particularly with intimacy, but if one's fluent in some metaphysical art and the other isn't, that seems like an unethical imbalance of power. So I'm just like, let me not even go there.
Right.
But with friends, I'll do it because there's, we're friends. It's fine. We can do that.
It's
Romantic partners, don't even think about it.
Wow, that's great. Okay, well, we are definitely out of time now, but I want to please tell everyone again what you're doing, how they can reach you. Any last words that you would love to share with us?
Well, first, I just want to say how grateful I am to have had the opportunity to talk to you guys. This has been so much fun, and it just feels so good with the energy of the conversation, so thank you. And you can find me on queercosmos.com, on Instagram, Facebook, and you can find me on Facebook, too, under my name, which is Colin Bedell, ColinBedell.
Thank you again, Colin. It's really been such an immense pleasure. I would love to just squeeze you. So if you're ever in LA, please let me know so we can meet and you can come in studio. And if I'm in New York, I'll be knocking on your door and
siblings, baby.
find each other. Thank you so much for your work, though. It's profound and it's important and it's really, really beautiful. And thank you, Lauren and Olivia, and thank you, Chris Hoffman and Lauren Antifermo for calling in. What an amazing show! I just love you all, and thanks for tuning in. I love you, whoever you are.